Okay, guys, so 3 stories to cover today. One of them I'm going to start with, which is on screen now, is that Google is going to remove ECPC, Enhanced CPC. It's had a long run and it's now coming to an end. And in October of this year, they'll start phasing out this bid strategy. And then by March 2025, it will be completely gone. So for those who don't know, ECPC, also known as Enhanced CPC, is a bid strategy that basically is a bridge between full kind of manual strategies and full automated strategies. So with the full smart bidding strategy with like something like target CPA, you're basically giving Google a CPA target to achieve. Google will adjust your bids automatically based on the target you set. With manual CPC, you set your bids yourself manually and Google doesn't touch them. But with ECPC, Google can adjust your bids based on likelihood of conversion to meet a kind of smart goal in terms of a CPA as well. So you can set your bids, Google won't deviate too much away from them, but it will basically try and achieve a kind of bridge between a smart bid and a normal manual CPC bid by using automation sometimes. So it was an interesting bridge, and it's a strategy actually I used to really like, maybe 5, 6, maybe even a bit longer ago, to be honest. But then smart bidding became so good that it was impossible not to use it for the majority of campaigns. So ECPC became pretty redundant very quickly. So normally when Google takes away a functionality or a setting, you typically think, oh my God, Google are trying to stop me from getting data, which we'll go on to in a minute, by the way. Google will stop me from getting data, will stop me from being able to control my campaigns. I'll lose some levers of control. Now, this isn't one of those decisions. It's just a decision that Google made pretty much arbitrarily. You know, maybe it saves them some money by not having so many settings. I don't know. But ultimately, it's not a bid strategy I've used or advocate for a long time. I don't even advocate for manual CPC most of the time. So ECPC is this kind of wishy-washy middle ground. I'm not the biggest fan of it anyway. But let me know in the comments, do you think ECPC is a good strategy? And have you been using it? Will you miss this strategy when it's gone from October this year? Let me know in the comments, and that'll be interesting to discuss with you, because I will fight you on this. It wasn't that good compared to smart bidding. It wasn't. So it's not a big miss, really. But when we dig into the story a little bit more and look at the take from search engine land, what they say is why we care. ECPC is the most light touch of automated bid strategies. So it allowed you to dip your toe into an automated bidding without giving Google full control by just working towards a conversion target. Google is taking that away. If you haven't started testing which fully automated bid strategies work for your campaigns, now is the time. So yeah, if you haven't actually started using smart bidding yet and you've been sitting on ECPC, now is the time. That is completely right. And to be honest with you, you're being pushed by Google to do this right now, when really you should have just taken the leap and jumped anyway and be testing your automated bid strategies anyway, if you were using ECPC. So again, it's not a big loss, and the framing of this article from Search Engine Land is completely correct. Start testing now, jump before you're pushed, because ultimately it's going to go. So that's it. Google introduced this strategy in 2010, which kind of rings a bell, really, because I suppose when I first got into Google Ads, this was kind of seen as a really cool, new, cutting-edge bid strategy, and I remember using it quite a lot. So it's it's a long time I've been in the game, but yeah, it's interesting to see, nonetheless. But as I say, my advice is, you probably didn't miss it anyway. You probably weren't using it anyway, and if you are using it, get off it. Get off it and start looking at smart bidding, or conversely, to be honest with you, if you're terrified of smart bidding and you still want to have that control, use manual CPC. And I don't like manual CPC compared to automated strategies because it has so many limitations. It can't adjust bids based on the customer's behavior and likelihood of conversion. It fixes you in place where you miss conversions you can't afford to bid for, and you spend money on clicks you wouldn't necessarily want to have spent money on anyway. So it's not the best strategy, but for small accounts, for tiny advertisers, it can give you just a stream of traffic at a fixed cost you can depend on, and you can get conversions from it for a very small advertiser. But if you're a bigger advertiser, what are you doing? In fact, I made a whole video about this before on the channel. So if you look at my channel, you'll see that video there. But let me know in the comments what you think about this change from Google. My next story is interesting. So, of course, as we know, I've covered on the channel before, Google has faced a DOJ case over in the US for antitrust and becoming a monopoly. They lost that case, of course, and they have the right to appeal. Interestingly, the appeal begins today, which I'll go on to. But really, what we're looking at here is Google in the EU. This fine, EU court rules Google must pay 2.4 billion euro fine. You might be thinking, this is a fine that Google just had. No. This case goes back to 2017. Now, this is a very classic Google case because it was all about the comparison shopping services. Google was basically accused by the EU of becoming a monopoly in the comparison shopping services space. And as a result of that, in 2017, the EU took them to court. And subsequently, even in that period of time since 2017 till now, Google have made a number of changes to try and level the playing field, including allowing many more shopping services to advertise on Google and have customers directly put onto Google, and of course the benefit of cheaper CPCs as a result. Google thought that was enough to escape this fine, and it hasn't worked for them. They have to pay this fine. Now, this shows you, when we look at the DOJ case over in the US, we think, oh, Google have the right to respond and obviously appeal that case, but this is how long these things take. You might think Google losing that DOJ case means Google basically has lost and that's it, they're a monopoly, the ball will start rolling with punishments, what's going to happen next? No. This is the reality. This right here is the reality. 2017 to 2024. That is how long this decision and this fine took to come to fruition after Google has appealed. And let's take a look at this story in a bit more detail. So there's a couple of things I want to mention. So the European Court of Justice, the ECJ, which made the judgment today, said in its ruling that the Commission was right to find Google's conduct discriminatory and its appeal must be dismissed in its entirety. So they don't like what Google had been doing. They're glad that obviously the appeal has failed today, and Google has now basically been officially approved, or as somebody who was monopolizing the shopping space on Google in the EU. They've lost. So Google's owner, Alphabet, has to bear their own costs and pay the costs incurred by the European Commission as well. Interesting. So they're paying all the court fees, they're paying the fine, and that's that now. That appeal is gone. They've kicked it out, and Google has to pay this. Now, this fine, 2.4 billion. It's a lot of money. Of course, it's a lot of money, but to Google, it's not a huge amount of money. It's not going to stop them operating. It's not going to hurt their bottom line necessarily. It might send signals to Wall Street that Google can lose these cases and will lose these cases in certain circumstances, meaning that the integrity of their monopoly is at risk. That's a bit different to profitability. That 2.4 billion doesn't mean anything to their profit. They make stupid money, way more than that could even have an impact on. But what can have an impact on is their value. Their market value will change as a result of losing more and more of these cases, as investors think, oh, if Google's monopoly is broken up, they're not going to be as valuable. And of course, that is indeed the case. So Google's gone through this whole action, and what Google has said is that their approach has worked successfully in terms of, trying to do things to make it a more level and fair playing field. They said the approach has worked successfully for more than 7 years, generating billions of clicks for more than 800 comparison shopping services. So that's true. They did try and fix things. They have invited more shopping services onto Google, and billions of clicks in that time from 2017 till now have taken place, and 800 shopping services have indeed advertised on Google. But it doesn't change the fact that they were a monopoly and they operated as such to get to this position for this amount of time. So ultimately, this fine to me sounds terrible, but good news. I mean, ultimately, I work with Google Ads every day. I'm somebody who's a Google Ads pro. Of course, I do many other things as well, but I'm not team Google. I'm team client. I'm team customer. Whatever platform, wherever they are, whatever it is that connects a company with its customer, I need to learn how to use it. Whether that's Google today or something else tomorrow, I need to leverage that as what I do. As marketers, that's what we do. As business owners, that's what we should be doing. So don't be too hung up on Google losing this case, but this is basically where the direction of travel is going. So let me know in the comments what you think about this fine, and are you shocked that it took from 2017 till 2024 for Google to finally actually have to pay up for this? They lost the case a long time ago, but let me know what you think in the comments below. This next story is completely tied to a very similar thing. So this is Google's response in their blog, The Keyword, where they basically respond to their recent DOJ case loss, and they're going out to defend the DOJ case today. So I wanted to take a look at this and just kind of show you guys what Google's response is. So it says on Monday, today, Google will go, well, actually not today. It was yesterday. But Google will go on trial to defend against claims filed by the Department of Justice, the DOJ, about some of our advertising technology in court. We will show that ad buyers and sellers have many options. And when they choose Google, they do so because our ad tech is simple, affordable, and effective. And in short, it works. So, they are the best advertising platform for people looking for services right now because of their search engine having such dominance. They also have a monopoly over the browser side of things as well with Chrome. So we know Google, and of course they pay Apple huge amounts of money to be the default search engine on iOS devices as well. So they have a monopoly and they protect it fiercely because they know that as long as they have the search monopoly, their ad product is going to just pick up the pieces. Simple, affordable, and effective. Now, simple? It's not simple. I mean, it kind of is for me. I mean, I've been around the block for a long time in Google Ads and people can learn it. There is a learning curve though. Affordable? Not so much anymore. Google Ads used to have a lot of micro businesses on it and I used to work with them. I remember working in 2013, 2012 with businesses spending £500 on Google Ads monthly, and they were getting great results. But that doesn't happen anymore in this same niche. If that same customer in the it was a car repair niche, if they were to do that again today with £500 on Google Ads for the month, they'd get very little because the traffic is so expensive now compared to then that it's just not viable anymore. So it's not cheap, it's not affordable anymore, but it's effective. Of course it's effective. You're advertising right where people are looking. So that's the other thing to consider. So this is the part that's interesting. By picking winners and losers in a highly competitive industry, the DOJ risks making it more expensive for small businesses to grow and for websites and apps to make money. Let's not break what's working. Now this is interesting because Google's argument is completely counter to what would actually happen in reality. If Google loses this case and they are broken up and had to be forced to be more transparent, then that can only benefit the advertiser and make it easier for small businesses to grow because they'll have more transparency. Take search terms, for example. Now, there was a recent story on Search Engine Land, actually. I won't go into it now, but they looked back at the reason why search terms have been redacted so much. You know, advertisers are seeing anything from 40 to 80% of their search terms being hidden in their account. Now, Google's obvious argument for this was citing privacy concerns. There are no privacy concerns here because users' IP addresses, names, personally identifiable information are not linked to search terms in any way. So it's a complete lie. So what this means is Google is redacting search terms to reduce efficiencies in accounts to maximize their profitability. That's the only conclusion we can come to. There is no other benefit to Google by redacting search terms. If privacy was a concern, they would have been redacted from the very start of the product. It was never the case. Google wants to be less transparent to maximize their profits. As a result of this, so that's one side of it. The second side of it is during this DOJ case, it came out that Google arbitrarily increases the floor price of auctions to make more money when Wall Street is panicking about their profitability in a certain quarter. Now, if Google loses this case and gets broken up and gets dug into by these bodies like the DOJ, that can't happen anymore. They'll be transparent. People will see what's happening. Maybe it can happen, but they'd have to be more transparent about it. So Google's line here about making it more expensive for small businesses to grow and websites and apps to make money is nonsense. It's complete and utter crap. Because if Google was to get broken up, they'd have to be more transparent. There'll be more levers for advertisers, again, more visibility on what's working and what's not working, and less of an opaque black box. That can only benefit advertisers and businesses. So Google is talking nonsense here. It's just interesting seeing the PR spin that Google uses for these certain types of responses. This is just so, it's quite, to be honest with you, it's quite sickening. It's quite funny because they're trying to position themselves as we're just over here, we're doing our little search thing over here, don't worry about us, we're not a multi-billion-dollar corporation with a monopoly that basically everyone is using. Now, of course, there are choices out there, so they make comments on alternative places to advertise. Of course there are alternative places to advertise, but these are different advertising methods to search. People looking for something right now have a higher conversion rate, and if they monopolize the entire process of looking for a product, now they'll mention things like Amazon, which of course does have a big share of the market, and people do search for products on Amazon. But for local services businesses, where else are you going to go to advertise? Directories barely exist anymore. Google has a monopoly. So That's it. But let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think that Google should just be able to do what they want? They just got there, they earned the place, they're the biggest company in the space, and they earn their position, and if they're a monopoly, so be it? Or are you like me saying, yeah, I think competition is good, and if consumers don't have any competition, then monopolies are allowed to run free. Consumers, and especially us as advertisers and business owners, technically we are a consumer as well of Google Ads, we deserve to have choice, and our job is to connect businesses to customers, and if that means Google having less of a market share than they do right now, even if it's artificially controlled by the DOJ, I don't mind. We just learn new platforms or continue to learn the platforms we're learning with and grow businesses through them. Our job is not necessarily to be purely on one platform. Even though I do make most of my content about Google Ads because it's how I got into online advertising, I know loads of platforms. I deal with platforms like Facebook ads, I've used Criteo, I've used AdRoll, I've used all kinds of advertising platforms all over the place. And it's important to keep those skills going. So that's my takeaway. But let me know what you think in the comments. I reply to all comments on all of my videos. Like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe, check out the other content on the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.